Lakewood police say officers shot a man near a popular shopping plaza.
He's now in the hospital and is expected to survive. Let's get right to 9 News reporter Colton Chavez, who's there near Pierce and Colfax. The latest on what happened there today. Colton?
Kyle, I'm at Lamar Station Plaza just over here to my left. This is where you can find businesses like Casa Bonita, but it was also here where about a block and a half up this street is where Lakewood police say officers chased and eventually shot a man. Now, Lakewood police also tells us that they first came into contact with this man earlier this morning when he was sitting in a car. Police say they also noticed he had a gun in his lap. Now, according to Lakewood police, the man took off and they didn't find him until around 4 o'clock this afternoon. Investigators say a task force made up of several different police departments found him in an apartment complex off Pierce Street in Colfax, where they say once again he ran from police. Now, the Lakewood Public Information Officer John Romero could not tell me what happened in between the times from running police and when shots have been fired.
He did have a gun in his hand. He was fired at by task force members from Denver Police and from Golden Police.
Police say the man was wanted for several felonies, including eluding Lakewood PD. Again, he is expected to survive his injuries. Now, police say they did recover a gun on the scene, which they say the man was holding in his hand. This is an ongoing investigation. You can trust 9 News to bring you all those latest details. Live in Lakewood tonight, Colton Chavez, 9 News.
We are officially out of the deep freeze that has blanketed the state for the past weekend. We saw sunshine today and temperatures rose into the 40s. We're expecting more of the same before a weekend storm and more snow. We're in a pattern.
Actually kind of felt a little foolish. Like I bundled up midday and I stepped bravely out into the cold and I was like, well, this isn't that bad, Kathy. That's not bad at all.
Yeah, but you probably look good.
Well, you know, the sacrifices we make.
There you go. Well, we've had 4 days, almost 5 days of this, and we finally busted out of the deep freeze with temperatures in the 40s. So we went from minus 14 at almost midnight last night to 42 today. That is a big temperature swing in 24 hours time. Now we're talking about the wind. The wind's picking up along the Front Range foothills, and that may create areas of blowing snow and difficult travel again tonight and tomorrow in some of those Front Range foothill canyons and highways. 2 this morning below zero, up to 42 this afternoon. And your weather headlines include more wind and snow for the mountains, difficult travel because of that. And we're tracking a weekend storm that will bring light accumulating snow on Saturday. These are your current numbers. 34 in Denver, 34 in Greeley, and some of the low-lying areas like Lyman and Greeley are in the teens. The wind is the big story, gusting to about 20 and 30, even 40 miles per hour out of the west and northwest. Couple of light snow showers east of Sterling out toward the North Platte area. A few clouds drifting through that will help to keep overnight minimums up. And we're tracking some snow for tomorrow for the mountains and foothills. Temperatures this evening a whole lot better than last night. Much more on the incoming weekend storm in just a bit.
Heard from a bunch of folks in Aurora, teachers and families upset with how Aurora Public Schools handled a week-plus internet outage that caused, among other things, security concerns because the security system wasn't functioning properly. Superintendent, though, says communication on this was fine.
We finally had the opportunity to talk to him about it tonight. 9 News reporter Spencer Soysher is joining us, and after sitting down with him following a school board meeting, what did you learn, Spencer?
Kim and Kyle, the superintendent, says that the internet is mostly back online at the schools, although there are a couple of glitches. But about a dozen employees from across the district reached out to 9 News over the last week or so, concerned about this, especially not feeling safe in classrooms because those security cameras were down. Superintendent Mike Giles told us tonight that last Monday the district's tech team noticed suspicious activity on their network, so they shut everything down. He says they partnered with some outside companies to try to figure out what was going on. I asked him if any student information may have been compromised, and he said they don't know yet. There's certainly been a lot of wondering what is going on here, and we've continued to ask for interviews about the outage. Tonight, the superintendent told me he doesn't think that they've been secretive about this. Is there a reason that you guys have been a little bit quieter about this than maybe most districts would be when it's just an outage?
You know, it's funny to me that you say we've been quiet because I feel like we've been communicating every day and providing updates. And as I shared at the board meeting, as we get updates, we get definitive answers, we're sharing that. So it's kind of hard to me to embrace this idea that we've been quiet because I don't think we have been.
Another thing we asked the superintendent, Is there a ransom involved here? He told me, quote, "I can't speak to anything of that nature." Live in Aurora, Spencer Soisher, 9 News.
A consulting firm out of Wisconsin will look into forensic services at CBI. This is part of an ongoing investigation into a former DNA analyst. The agency announced today that they hired Forward Resolutions LLC to put together a report. There are accusations that former DNA scientist Missy Woods manipulated data in over 1,000 cases over the course of her decades-long career. She retired in 2023, but is still under criminal investigation. The consulting firm is tasked with providing feedback on how CBI provides scientific results. They're expected to put out a report within a few months that'll cost $770,000. CBI says the firm offered the quickest turnaround and was one of the lower price tags out of the 5 bids.
The Trump administration is lifting a policy banning immigration raids at so-called sensitive places like schools, churches, hospitals, weddings, and funerals. Today, the Trump administration threw out the policy dating back more than a decade, which limited where ICE could make arrests. This announcement was expected. He talked about it during the campaign. Immigration advocates worry that allowing people to be detained at churches, schools, or hospitals could keep migrants from seeking medical attention or allowing their kids to go to school, as is their right. President Trump kept that policy in place, blocking immigration raids at sensitive locations during his first administration, but he did remove similar guidance that restricted immigration enforcement at courthouses. Colorado is among 22 states suing the Trump administration over a new order that would bring an end to birthright citizenship. Birthright citizenship guarantees that children born in the U.S. are citizens, regardless of their parents' immigration status. President Trump signed an executive order yesterday limiting it to people who have at least one parent who is a U.S. citizen or is a permanent U.S. resident. So this would also mean no birthright citizenship for the children of people here legally but temporarily. Many legal scholars are skeptical it'll hold up in court because it's enshrined in the Constitution. 14th Amendment reads, quote, "All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside."
Where they're trying to create a hook where there is no hook is that language in the 14th Amendment, which is subject to the jurisdiction thereof. The Supreme Court has interpreted that language very clearly. It stems from very old legal principles that there's 2 groups that aren't included. Those are children of hostile occupying forces, and those are children of foreign diplomats.
The executive order by Trump is set to take effect on February 19th. We'll be watching to see if courts block it before that date. Today, more than 200 people convicted of crimes related to the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol were released from prison. This move comes as judges start dismissing dozens of pending cases after President Trump's sweeping grant of clemency to all 1,500-plus people charged in the insurrection, the failed attempt to keep him in power in 2021. In the next half hour, we'll dive deeper into some of the arrests with ties to Colorado.
For the first time ever, Denver's cold weather shelters will be open for a month straight. The city lowered its threshold for opening up the shelters at the start of this winter. They are now open anytime the temperature drops below 25 degrees. Before, it had to be below 20, and they are now open all day instead of just overnight. Those shelters have been operating for 3 straight weeks now. The city says roughly 1,600 people have stayed in them each night over the last few nights. Compare that to last year when they had just over 900 people on their busiest night.
When you have, low barrier facilities for people to come indoors, to lay down on a cot or on a mat every night, when it's in different conditions, when it's, 25 degrees or less at night, we're seeing people make that decision to come inside.
Cold weather shelters were open for about 40 nights last year. The city projects they'll be open for about double that this year. More than a dozen people remain hospitalized in the Denver area tonight after suffering frostbite or hypothermia this past weekend. At the UC Health Burn and Frostbite Center inside the University of Colorado Hospital, 10 patients were hospitalized with frostbite, pushing the unit over capacity. More than a dozen patients that would normally be treated on the burn and frostbite unit are now being treated elsewhere in the hospital. One doctor we spoke with said it's a situation he's never experienced, but one he was prepared for when he saw the forecast.
This is the busiest our census has been in the 2.5 years that I've been here. We have not hit this number in the time that I've been here. I'm not surprised, though, that we got the number of patients that we did, given the breadth of the weather system. It's not just one day, it was 3+ days of cold exposure, which really made it a bit unique, the length of time.
In addition to treating patients here locally, that team also does hundreds of consultations for doctors in nearby states during situations like that. Of those 10 patients in the unit right now, 6 were transferred from other hospitals or flown in from other states.
Some good news, South Metro Fire says they haven't gotten as many calls about burst pipes as they did when last year's Arctic blast warmed up. Between 6 this morning and 6 tonight, South Metro says they ran on 20 water flow calls and 4 calls about other water problems. They were called to 28 fire alarm calls, which they say could have been a burst pipe or leak from a cracked pipe. When the weather warmed up after last year's cold snap, South Metro had one of its busiest days in history. And South Metro does warn we're not completely out of the woods, right? They do expect that more pipes will burst tomorrow.